most coaches giving over the standards.
Okay, if everyone would go ahead and take their seat, we'll begin. Coach Pearl will give an opening statement, and then we will take your questions. Remember, no videoing is allowed at all. And when you are called upon, please ask or state your name and affiliation.
Well, it's great to be in Birmingham, Alabama. I remember when having worked with Mike Slive when I was at Tennessee, and then when the opportunity at Auburn came open, Mike had been working really hard along with Greg Sankey and then Dan Leibowitz too, to have men's basketball be as competitive as all the other sports were in the SEC. And he knew he had work to do. And I've always taken some level of pride in the fact that both at Tennessee and at Auburn, I've been able to be at two great programs and have those programs be competitive in men's basketball. And then, you know, to now see the city of Birmingham get rewarded with a regional coming back and being a host site. There's great history and tradition of NCAA Tournament basketball in this building, in this town. It's been a few years, and so what a great reward for the folks in the state of Alabama to have, you know, two great teams, two great programs, be able to be here and competing for a national championship.
Up front.
Bruce, Kevin Skarbinski with the Birmingham Lead. How confident are you that Auburn fans will be creative enough to buy enough tickets to get in this building? Because Alabama fans knew for some time that their team was likely to be here.
Well, I would imagine they're going to find a way to, you know, to get tickets. I know it's been really difficult. My phone's rung off the hook, and I've had to say no to a lot of, you know, friends and people that want to try to get tickets because they're just been hard to come by. But our fans have traveled. You know, for the last several years, it's not been like Kentucky Blue, but it's been pretty close. Neville Arena has been sold out for the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, a hard sellout. Like, you cannot buy a ticket to a game at Neville Arena, period, unless you have a season ticket and so on. So our fans have then begun to buy tickets all around the SEC. So our fans have traveled, and I'm sure they'll travel here to Birmingham.
Back up front.
Hey, Glenn Gilbo from Outkick.com. Coach, did you have a guess to where they might send you for this regional going in, and how happy or lucky did you feel to be so close?
Well, two things. One, I felt like we were somewhere between an 8 and a 10 based on the math. You know, our analytics had us all around 32 in most of the categories. And the body of work was clearly what mattered most to this committee. What you did in November mattered. And, you know, Auburn was the only Power 5 school to have 5 true road game against Power 5 opponents. Only 3 teams had more games, more appearances against teams in this field than Auburn. Like Kansas, I think, Baylor, maybe Iowa State. Then we're right there. So what we scheduled really hard, put our kids in challenging positions, so we got rewarded. Regarding being in Birmingham, I'll answer the question even before it's asked. In 2018, when we won the championship of the SEC, we went out to California. In 2019, when we won the tournament and got to the Final Four, it was through Salt Lake City and Kansas. And so, you know, the pod system was going then. And, you know, just the way it worked out, we had to travel. And so now the fact that it's worked out, we're able to be, you know, a couple hours from campus is great. That's why the pod system was created. It's great for our students and great for our fans and those that can get into the game. It won't have a huge effect on the game much, you know, because it's a neutral site and in every way. But we're happy to be here. We feel fortunate to be here.
Very back.
Hey, Coach, again, Carrie Osep, WBTM. So coming off of last year, you've been in this tournament, you've coached, you've had the experience, but coming off of last year as a number 2 seed, that confidence coming in, not having to be so, I guess, mentally, into that first matchup as you guys are in this one, especially with the closer seeding. What do you learn from that, and what's the mentality change possibly in this situation this year?
I think the only change is this: when you walk into the Auburn basketball locker room, there's an AU on the wall, and then it says "Make History." It's unlike any AU symbol on our campus. And I asked the guys, I said, tell me a little bit about Auburn basketball history. I asked the question in the locker room. They talked about, Charles Barkley, or talked about some of the coaches and some of the players, talked about being number one in the country a year ago and some of our championships. I asked them, I said, this is not going to be easy. It ain't going to be easy to beat Iowa. Our guys know that. Iowa's really good. And Houston is the number one seed. They got to play Northern Kentucky. It's going to be really hard to win that one if we get a chance. But let me ask you a question. Where would this team rank historically if we could win 2 games this weekend? And so all you could do is work really hard to put yourself in position to make something really special happen. Now we got to make something special happen. We got to be able to stop the number 2 or 3 offensive efficiency team in the country in Iowa, who's bigger than us at every single position. I mean, taller, longer, so on and so forth. We're going to have to hang our hat on our defense, keeping it off the offensive glass, make some shots, play some special, and then, survive and advance.
Right here. Coach Ryan Hennessy, WVTM 13 in Birmingham. That trip last night, you had a nice steak dinner. Is that something that helps a short trip? I know you guys have been across the country, across the world. How does that help to have a shorter trip? Does it really make an impact?
I don't know that it does. Whether you get on a plane for an hour and a half or a bus for 2.5, it doesn't really make any difference. But I will tell you, driving to Birmingham on 280 was never so much fun as with a police escort. I am telling you. I mean, it was awesome. We went through every single red light, and I tell you, we got here in about an hour and a half. So, and everybody knows what a ride that can be.
Hi, Bruce. Jeff Spiegel, ABC 3340. So I know you and Charles are really tight. Have you given him some grief for picking Alabama to win it all?
Let me tell you something. Charles Barkley loves the state of Alabama. He loves Auburn first. There's no question about that. But he's been pretty loyal to our state. And all I can say about Charles Barkley is he's going to tell you what he thinks, whether you like it or not. And so if he said that he thinks Alabama's going to win the tournament, he's not doing it for any other reason than that Charles thinks they're going to win it. And I've played against them a couple times, and they're good enough to win it. Nate Oates is one of the best coaches in the country. Done an amazing job, with this team, and they're talented, they're deep, they play the right way.
In the very back.
Thank you. On that note, just how special is it to get Auburn and Alabama? I know this is just we've all been talking about it, a unique setup to have them here in this first round. But how does that speak to just the growth of basketball here in this state? And what are your expectations for fans just in general this weekend around right here in Birmingham for basketball?
Well, it's obviously the numbers speak for themselves. And, I believe that in the last 5 out of the last 6 years, either Auburn or Alabama has won a championship. We won it 3 times, and they've won in 2 years. They've won championships, both the regular season and the title. So Auburn and Alabama have represented and been a factor in the growth of the SEC. And as far as our fan bases being in Birmingham, will it remind them of the Iron Bowl and the festivities around it? I'm sure it'll just add to the history and to the rivalry.
Yeah, Bruce, CBS has ranked this game as the 3rd best matchup of all the matchups. And here's what they wrote. They said, if you're into seeing coaches act like children, you'll love this one. We'll set the over-under on coach technicals at a cautious 1.5. My question is, should I take the over or the under? And can you talk about the passion you and Fran coach with?
Well, I can only speak for myself as far as acting like a child, you know. But you know, I've got a couple grandkids, and I love their energy and I love their passion, and every now and then they throw a fit, you know, and so we still love them, right? I think it's one of the best matchups because of the quality of the teams and how competitive the game could be. We're gonna have to play well for it to be competitive. I can tell you that. And then Fran wears it on his sleeve also, and but we respect the game. I'll take the under on the technical fouls.
Joe Goodman, AL.com. Bruce, what are some of the things you love about Lior?
I love that Lior is one of our hardest workers. You know, Lior he's played the last 2 years, and had we not taken the NCAA scholarship penalty the last 2 years, Lior would have been on scholarship. So he's like a scholarship player for sure. He's a great teammate. You know, he's grateful for the opportunity that he's been given at Auburn, and he goes to work every day trying to reward Auburn for giving him the chance. I don't know that because he wasn't heavily recruited out of Mountain Brook High School that he thought he would get the chance to play on this stage, and he's truly grateful for the opportunity and wants to make the most of it.
David Eichel, 24/7 Sports. Bruce, just what makes Fran McCaffrey's offense difficult to guard? Is it the motion offense, and what can you say just about the consistency that Iowa's offense has brought, I think, for the past decade or so?
A real commitment to up-tempo basketball. A lot of fans or people that profess to know the game, they think the only brilliant offensive minds are the ones that control everything. You know, oh, that's a good shot. Look at wait. They got it to both sides of the floor. That's a beauty. I love when I hear that. What the? If I can get the ball on one side of the floor and I get a good look, I'm gonna take that look. He shot it too quickly. That's a bad shot. Fran gives his players freedom and gives them confidence. And I think great offensive coaches that are willing to play with some tempo don't get enough credit for being as good coaches. Look, we know sometimes they're going to take a bad shot or early, whatever. So it's that commitment to the break. It's the spacing. He does a great job utilizing his personnel, putting his personnel in position to be successful. They play unselfishly. I mean, they don't turn the ball over. They'll get a shot off before they turn it over. So, I mean, he's been doing it a long time. He knows what works.
Ike Jones, War Report, Auburn coach. What do you say about the matchup with Chris Murray that you're going to have in this game? Do you feel like it's going to be something that's going to be super challenging for the team?
Yes, I think Murray's a tough matchup because he's a 6'9" that's longer. I don't know if he's 6'9" or 6'10". I don't know exactly what it is, but he plays longer than that, and he's a guard, and he's a guard, and so that makes him a real tough matchup, and potentially the way they use him, a mismatch. We've played against Brandon Miller, who was also a tough matchup. Chris has got a little bit more ability inside. But we've played, and we'll have our hands full because he can do things inside and out.
Jake Stansel, WBRC here in Birmingham. Coach, of course we know the special run this team had in 2019 and maybe not the best record as far as conference play goes, but have you or maybe any of the former players from that team shared with this current team how to maybe make another special run like that?
Well, I know the guys are in touch. Walker and Jabari are text me a lot, and they're proud of our guys for for being here again without them. And you know, you heard from Sharif Cooper, and you know, heard from several of the former players. You know, it's kind of crazy to think that you know, Jabari would be a sophomore, Walker would be a junior, Sharif would be a junior, Isaac could be a senior. I mean, you know, we've had some pretty good guys that have run through this program that didn't stay here very long, and those guys have all reached back out, and they're around in the summertime, so they're still close to a lot of our players because they were teammates.
Coach Pearl, Jamal Kennedy, WSFA 12 Sports in Montgomery. What makes Janai so special, and how do you see his role? How do you see him making an impact in this game tomorrow? He's an old school center. Can score with his back to the basket. You know, he is going to be, and at times he's shown the ability to stretch the defense with his three ball. He's a very willing passer. He understands, you know, the game. You know, he was probably one of the more important newcomers to any program in our league. Doesn't get talked a lot about, but where would we be without Janai Broome? You know, when you lose, you know, 2 NBA first rounders who are both, you know, being dominant rookies, that's a lot to lose. And Stephen Pearl led the recruiting on Janai, and he came in, he's answered all the questions about whether or not his game could transfer from mid-major to high major. It has. And being second team all league, all district is a great start for him. And I think next year he could be an even more dominant player.
Last question in the back.
Coach Chris Werner, the Daily Iowan. You guys are in the top 10 of three-point defense against percentage, you know, from opponents. What's behind that, and how do you think that might help you guys against Iowa, who shoots a lot of threes?
Well, it's a lot of it has to do with ball pressure. The interesting thing is when some of our guards have got both hands up, we may reach their like letters. Like I don't even think that our hand up, well, you might even get into their chin, let alone their eyes. So they're long, they're tall, and but you know that's probably, you know, ball pressure has been a function of our defense, and hopefully that can help our three-point field goal percentage defense, because that'll be important tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maryland will be next.